Azure here. I want to be sharing with you guys my Bard build. I know it's a little bit late on the module. People are not playing that much anymore, including myself. Haven't been playing Master Demon Rapids lately. Bard is not my main hill, so I do miss a few pieces here and there, but I'll be sure to mention that out. And yeah, we'll start with the buffs. For this build, I'm using the Batwing soup to get more outgoing healing, using the squash soup if you're not using the perfect weapons. If you are, you can go with the watermelon. I'm using Wildstorm Elixir and a flask of potency and whatever I get from the invocation blessing. You usually get power capped, critical severity very overcapped to be fair. I'm gonna get into that later. And critical strike is around 88, and the outgoing healing is around 88 too. If you use this for Zando, which I usually don't, you can get it capped anyway. So let's start off the build. Before anyone asks about the helmet, yes, if you have the one from MTOS helmet, the one that gives regen, you can use it. But if you don't, you can use this one. It's just as good, guys. Don't underestimate this helmet. The regen, you're only gonna need the regen one if you know that you're in a situation that you might run out of performance, which is, I mean, I think the only spot that happens is the Master Demon Weapons in the healing check, and the other spot is if you're dying a lot on the bosses there, it can happen. But I'm using this one that gives more performance. You can use the critical strike ones that you get from the Master Demon Weapons. You can use the Rain Catcher. You can use the one that gets powered as well. I don't think it's with me right now, but we do have an upgrade version of the Rain Catcher that's 1900 item level that comes from the Demon Weapons hunts, so you might want to look out for that. It's a really good piece of gear to have because it gives outgoing healing ratings, and outgoing ratings don't really come as easy as for the Bard as for the other classes. So we stick with the performance one here. For the chance piece, again, guys, this is mandatory in my eyes. This is a debuff chess piece. Like, it should give a debuff to the enemy, reducing defense, awareness, and critical avoidance by 5%, which equates to like around 8-9% damage to your party. So it's really powerful. If you're in a trial and there's someone else using this, you can go with the one that gives outgoing healing and critical strike for the teammates. It gives critical strike for you as well, so it's really good. And you don't need two of those, so just have that spare chess piece here just in case. And again, guys, the Bard, I know, although I do think it's mandatory to do the debuff, I do have a bunch of companions that give outgoing healing, which is the Golden Bullet. I do have access to the Quick Lane as well. And don't jeopardize your heals to do the debuff. The Bard really lacks in healing when compared to the other classes. So if you feel like you're struggling, you might as well just use the outgoing healing chess piece. Don't let your outgoing healing stat go too low. I'm using the debuff one because I can have a really high outgoing healing and still provide a debuff. So the gloves, I'm using the power one. Depending on what you're using, if you're using the perfect weapons, you can change the companions around, and you can even use the one from the Master Demon Weapons to get critical strike, which is a little higher item level, a little more consistent. But since I'm showing here the most hardcore version of the build, which needs more consumables. So any change you guys made from here, you're gonna be more consumable friendly. You're gonna use less consumables. You're gonna drop the squash soup, use the watermelon. So just have that in mind. For the weapons, I have the new master weapons for a little more survivability for the group, a little more heals for us as well. When it comes to healing itself, it's No, the perfect weapons are better by all means, because normally nowadays the group is not running full mastercraft weapons, so it's usually up to you and the tank to use it. So it ends up being better using the perfect weapons. But again, it's very helpful to have this one in a trial. Most likely gonna need this master weapons, and the bard have access to those, the new ones, for very cheap. It's one of the cheapest ones in the new module when it comes to the master crafting weapons. For the healing boots, I'm using the one that's similar to what we have in the Master Demon Web Pits, but I did get those from the Master Demon Web Pit hunts in the campaign. It gives the same thing. It gives 5,500 outgoing healing at Forte. So we just saved up some runs in the Master Demon Web Pits, and yeah, it's just as strong. It's just 100 item level lower, so it's fine. I need the outgoing healing. Again, Bard and the Warlock don't have access to the 10,000 outgoing healing boots that the Cleric and the Paladin have. And besides that, since we're using the debuff chest piece, we are not getting the outgoing healing that we would normally get for using the other chest piece. For the artifact set, I'm using the Apocalypse set. If you main the Bard, I suggest you invest in the Metalist set. Just be aware if they do stack. So you might end up in two situations. Let's just illustrate that for you guys. If you play a dungeon and everybody's using the buff, the DPS are going to use the higher level because they want to do more damage. You're going to have two options. You're going to use Apocalypse or Vistani. Truth be told, the DPS is not going to be using Vistani anymore, so it's up to you and the tank. The tank will use Vistani because the tank does not build for critical strikes, so it cannot use neither the Apocalypse or the melee set. So if you invest in the Apocalypse, you will be using it. You will be using it. If you play a trial, and for example, the Examiner, we have 3 healers playing. So the Paladin will have the Vistani for sure because much easier for him to have it. And he probably can have the Grace as well. And again, if you have another healer, the other healer can be used the Metalist set. And one of you will have to step down and go for the low item level one, which is the Apocalypse. So if you want to invest in one, I suggest you go for the Apocalypse set. For the rings, I'm using the Opal ring to get a little more healing above the cap. If it works, I hope it does. Aragon told so. I couldn't test it here on the training room with the illusions, so it's really hard for me to test this on the trials or any other place. But I'm working on it. I'm working on a healing formula guide video for all the healers. So yeah, I'm gonna be making a video about that in the next module when the changes on the Paladin come out. For the other ring, I'm using the Grace ring for the debuff again. I'm using the shirt that gives outgoing healing. We do need the outgoing healing, and I'm using the pants that give power. For the artifacts, we have the Halaster Blast Scepter for dungeons. This is usually what the healing goes. Again, because of the item level, DPS we're not going to run with this. And for the other artifacts, just use the one to complete the set and the other ones that you might have. I do have the Demon Gorgon here in the blades. For the enchantments, I'm using 1 Garnet, 1 Cobalt, 2 Jades on the offense. On the utility, I do have Jade for outgoing healing, and the defense is you can use whatever you want. I'm using the Devil's Precision for critical strike, and the other is up to you. If you're running Master Demon Web Pits, you can run with the Demon Ward to reduce damage of demons in the dungeon. For the combat enchantment, I'm using the Lightning Flash to give 7.5 more critical strike. I don't recommend you go with the Mythic Refulgent because you can't really proc it that often. Same goes for the boots, the Miracle Creep boots. You cannot proc that often with the Bard, so I wouldn't bother. And the Bard is already too heavy on debuffs and buffs, so don't jeopardize your heals for it. And I'm using the movement speed bonus for the last enchantment. So the boons, guys. The boons right now, there's not much to talk about. Maybe in the module 27 we're gonna talk about that. Maybe a sneak peek here. Take the power, it's critical strike, critical severity, and the rest is up to you. I did take movement speed as well. We take forte, and I'll go in healing since we don't really care much about recharge speed and actual point gain. So because we don't really have a useful daily. And yeah, I took the lingering meds in here. I was trying to go for the potion boon point on the guild. Potion boon on the guild point to use the potions on everybody, but I don't think the boon is working. But this can be really useful if they fix it. And after that, I went for some defensive here. Awareness and defense are the strongest ones. But if you have spare points, more than I only have 73. If you have more points than me, you can take all those. I don't like picking the maximum life one because you might not be able to proc the stacks if you have those on your gear. It's not usually a problem for the healer, but I just leave them for last. And the master boon, I'm using the one that helps the tank. When the boon changes come, I'll probably pick those two, blast advantage and blast resilience, so we can help both DPS and the tank. And I think we're gonna be able to proc on ourselves as well. So it'll be really nice to have. We're gonna have even more power here. So yeah, might be overcapped on power. For the companions, I usually do my builds with Portobello. You just have to buy it on the appointment event vendor there, and you're gonna have for the whole account. It gets 3.5 power and 3.5 combat advantage for the whole group. So the power helps us out, especially now that the supports really trying to go all in with the debuffs. The Portobello is really helpful for us as well. Equipment, I try to go for outgoing healing here. Ideally, if you have farmed a bunch of MTOS, you go for the single stat ones, and you might save up in the consumables, the one that gives outgoing healing. So yeah, if you do have that, you can go for 3 of those as well. It's better than what I have here, and you're gonna be fine. For the enchantment, again, if I drop this, I'm gonna be 7.5 outgoing healing below the cap, so that might hurt my healing. So I don't usually don't usually use the debuff here unless I do change things around here in the artifact sets. If I perhaps go with the Tiamat set to get more outgoing healing, or if I change the Grace to for the glowing restoration ring, for example, to give more outgoing healing because someone else is using the Grace, someone else is using the same debuffs than me. So yeah, I do change around for the debuffs, but normally I run with this. If I have to use all the debuffs that I'm already using, I normally run with it with Invigorate enhancement there to get more outgoing healing. If I drop one of these, maybe use the outgoing healing ring here, or use the Tiamat set more outgoing healing, I can put the debuff there to help out. So for the companions, I'm using the Black Dragon's Insight for critical strike. I'm using the Golden Bullet, outgoing healing, Phone Instincts for power and critical strike, and of course the Raptor. And the Quickly for more outgoing healing and critical strike. Active companion, I usually run with the Portobello to get me more power, combat advantage, but I do have some others as well. I do have the Dritz. I do have the Tutor. You can have the Lion as well. It's great. It's good to have. You can upgrade the Cyclops. You can use. Might be needing to use sometimes. You can use the Spine Devil if you have. That's the ones I have here. It's usually enough to have two. But I have three right now. Dritz, Portobello, and Tutor for supporting the group. For the mounts, you gotta have the Swarm, you gotta have the Eclipse, you gotta have the Rex and the Pegasus. That's the basic ones that you're gonna have. For the equip power, I run with the Mystic Aura. You gotta have the Runic Aura and the Pack Tactic as well, just in case. In a trial, you might need a little more mounts. You might need the balloons. You might need the Balgura. You might need the Salamander. I don't have those here. Usually, if you're running, especially, maybe this is more for the Examinate because we do have more supports there. But yeah, you gotta have four at least. Those four: Eclipse, Swarm, Pegasus, and T-Rex, and the auras as well. For the bonuses, I'm using the same for all the healers. So I'm using Shepherd's Devotion, Gladiator's Goal, Lionheart's Perseverance, Magistrate to Spacious. They seem to have forgot that this doesn't have a force lot amount yet. They don't release any mounts that have this power with four signets, for some reason. This is really powerful one. This gives a defensive buff, and every time you critically heal somebody. So this is really good. It's really helpful. Yeah, I use Mender's Covenant as well. Shepherd's Devotion is questionable here because you don't use dailies very often. The bard doesn't really have good dailies. So if you want to change, you can. You can go with another Gladiator's Goal to get more speed, or you can even go with the, I think it's Survival Expertise to gain 5,000 Forte. That gives a little more Divinity regen, not Divinity, Performance regen, and some extra stats for, I think it's Critical Strike or Critical Severity. So you can use those. You can take that off Shepherd's Devotion, since we don't really use that much of a dailies. I saved the powers for last because the Bard is a really tricky one to play, a really tricky class to play. So for the ad wheels, I run with the Reprise. I know you're already looking strange on the mid saying, why don't you use Phantasmal Concerto? The reason is, Phantasmal Concerto has a little bit of range, and it's an AoE, so it procs the Grace. It procs the stats. It's a little harder to keep the stats with the if you're using Apocalypse, but it's fine. But if, for example, if you have multiple targets, if you have one ad and you use Phantasmal Concerto here, you're not going to be proccing the Vistani, you're not going to be proccing the Grace because they fixed this. You're hitting multiple targets with the AoE, will not proc Grace at all. And the other reason why, because it has a little bit range to it, sometimes you might not be in range for the chest piece debuff to proc. So by using the Reprise, I'm always make sure I'm on range to proc the debuff on the chest piece, So, and it's more reliable when it comes to the procs of the Apocalypse or the Metalis set. And it also procs the Grace fairly easy, and you're not going to be hitting multiple targets with it. So you're going to have all the debuffs applied with the Reprise very easily. For the encounters, guys, it's mandatory. Flourish is a 50% added healing bonus. So you always gotta make sure you use this before you cast your Rejuvenated Carol. It's a huge debuff. If you have since it's additive, it's not actually a 50% increase. So it's more like a 25 if you have everything capped, but it's still a really good buff to have. For the other one, I usually go with the delayed play with the Sheltering Etude because I use Vamp. So I use it for the extra heals, which the Bard needs. And the third one is up to you. I usually run the baseline to get more regen, although it's very annoying to cast. It's a 10-second cast, so very annoying. You can use the Duet to get the Daisy effect if you're facing a bunch of enemies that needs crowd control. You can use Serenade to give somebody extra heals, and or you can use the Dancing Lights to reduce the enemy's damage for a boss, for example. For the dailies, we're gonna be using. I don't use Inspiration, just have it slotted. This one is very underwhelming. So the best one we have is Curtain Call. I don't use it very often. I use in very specific situations. Unfortunately, the bard doesn't have good dailies. And yeah, I try to make sure I use the Warding Carol for the damage mitigation and the Sheltering Attitude for the shield whenever I have the Curtain Call, whenever I use the Curtain Call. For the songs, I'm gonna be using Rejuvenated Carol, of course. Gonna be using Blazing Flamenco. The quick slot, we're gonna be using Defender's Minuet, which is the emergency heal for somebody that has the lowest hit points, and the Warden Carol for removing negative status. I don't really use Horror Fantasia that much. And yeah, Sheltering Etude I do use a bunch of times. Whenever we have the Carol up and people need more heals, I do a quick cast on this. And whenever I have the vamp activated on the quick delayed play. I think to know, I'm gonna save it for the last. So for the class features here, we do have Esforzando that gives 5% outgoing healing. The thing is really good. You can use this if you want to cap it for this build here. Just change it for this. I just don't want to be stuck with this. So if you're building for you can actually get 90% outgoing healing. And if you get this, this is useless. This is useless. It doesn't go above the cap, and I don't want to be stuck with this. So I try to get the cap to use other things. For example, like you can use Arpeggio Fortissimo sometimes to get the Arpeggio, that AoE heal. Although it's not that strong, it can be useful sometimes. I do have Vamos Voila always for the movement speed buff. If you're using Aurora Fantasia, you can use the Play It Back. And I do have Starstruck on for additional heals. I know it's not that strong, but more procs of healing, more buffs, more heals. The bard needs the healing, guys. It's not that strong compared to the other healers. For the feats, we have Diminuendo. I do prefer the quick heal of the quick big heal of the Diminuendo instead of the Crescendo, which offers the how do I say? Yeah, it increases the heal over time. I rather have the quick heal for Diminuendo. For the second feat, I don't even know how to pronounce this, Rhapsody at Arms to get some mitigation going for me. For the third feat, I use Vamp for get more heals. Every time I play a song, I have a chance to get a free delayed play cast. I use the Sheltering Elude on the delay play, so more heals for me. I know some people use Send Muse. I don't like it very much. The thing is here, next time, it doesn't really buff the Rejuvenated Carol. It only extends the duration, so I don't really like it. It buffs the Sheltering Etude, but I mean, it's very annoying. It's very random, the buff, and it's very annoying to see when you get the buff. So I know some people use this. I just don't like it myself. I rather have the more heals because again the bard needs it, guys. So guys, for the fourth book, I use Desperate Finale to get the emergency performance whenever I drop too low on it. And I know some people use Pianissimo. I don't recommend you reduce the magnitude of your heals because the bard is not the strongest healer, guys. We do use the bard for the buffs, not for the heals. So I don't recommend you going too low, guys. I'm gonna make a quick comparison, guys, just so you guys know the difference of healing. And for example, Rejuvenated Carol, the magnitude is 200. And the magnitude of the healing word of the cleric, of the heal over time, is 300. So it's 50% higher. Even with the flourish on, that gives 15% additive healing bonus. Even with the inspiration on, that gives another 10. Even with the 60% buff, the rejuvenated carol of the bard is not stronger than the cleric's. And the cleric also have the daily, the guardian of life, the hallowed ground. We don't have anything here, anything good at all here. The only thing we got going for the bard is the rejuvenated carol and the sheltering etude. So if you drop, reduce the healing of a rejuvenated carol, what's gonna happen is that you're gonna be using a lot more sheltering etude, and that's gonna be a little hard to play. It's gonna be annoying to play a song every time, and yeah, even I think you even reduce the sheltering magnitude as well. So the magnitude is 600 here. It's not that great either, to be fair. So yeah, man, don't use Pianissimo. I don't recommend. But again, it's your game. You play the way you want. But I don't recommend, guys. There's no need to to cut the costs of the songs, especially if you have the MTOS helmet, guys. Even with this helmet on that gives the performance, more performance, I'm okay with it. So don't use this. For the last feat, yeah, of course we use Storyteller. That's the whole reason we use the Bard. It gives 15% DPS, increased damage to the DPS, mitigation to the tank, and ongoing healing for the healer. We don't benefit from this at all, so don't build your ongoing healing thinking you're gonna get 50% more, because you're not gonna get it. So the buff does not work on you. Even if another buff procs it, it doesn't work on you. So yeah, the thing about Storyteller, guys, is that we do have 3 stacks that last 15 seconds. Uh, they all expire at the same time. So what we're gonna do to keep the stacks up is that we're gonna proc Blaze Flamenco, to Flourish with the Rejuvenated Carol, and if we have the Vamp on and it procs, we do the Sheltering Loot. If we don't, we cast the Sheltering Loot ourselves. And once we get around the 15-second mark there on the songs, we do cast another song to refresh it, like the Sheltering Tooth, and it's gonna be fine. I cannot show you guys here because again the book does not proc on myself, so yeah, I'm gonna have to believe me. You just have to cast one single song to refresh the whole stack, and once all the songs finish, you gotta play all the songs back again, all the 3. And at the 15-second mark, you play another song again. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, and I forgot as well, is the passive critical tuning, guys. That's the reason why I told I'm a little bit overcapped on the critical severity, is because we do get for free 10% critical severity. But you have to play a quick play, a song that is not on quick play. So you don't have this at all times. For that reason, I don't like to count with that critical severity, because sometimes you do need to cast a sheltering etude and you might not have the buff on. I don't want my sheltering etude to be weaker than usual because I don't have the critical severity on. So I don't rely on that buff all the time. I don't want to rely on that. But if you want to take a hit on a stat, I do suggest you take a hit on a stat on the critical severity, because you do have a little more extra critical severity here. And other thing that we have extra is another 10% healing additive bonus. So again, we do every time we play a song that is not a quick slot, it procs. So we start with the Blaze Flamenco, we use Flourish, and we have all the buffs on here. We have Flourish, the Inspiration, the critical tuning, and we do go for the Rejuvenated Carol. We have the Vamp on now, and we do activate. That's all 3 songs there, and it's gonna be fine, guys. And that's it. Another thing that I wanted to mention, guys, and I forgot, is the interaction between flourish and delayed play. And there's nothing to say, and that's the point. There's no interaction. There's no interaction between the two. So what I mean by that is, like, if I play flourish here for the rejuvenated Carol, you guys gonna see it heals for 104.9. I'm gonna kill myself when I'm trying to do this with the delayed play. I'm gonna kill myself to turn off the buffs and the song. And yeah, we're gonna cast the delayed play here. I'm gonna try to flourish the song and save the in a quick play. I flourished putting the song in, and I'm gonna flourish putting the song out and see if he flourishes the song. It does not. So you guys saw it doesn't work. There's no interaction going in or going out with the delayed play. And that's it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. There's a lot to talk about the bard, and I know it's annoying. That's it for the video, guys. I hope it didn't offend anyone by saying that the bard doesn't heal as much as the others, but I know, man. If you play the bard, you should know. If you play the bard, you know that you're playing for the buffs, because it does not provide the same amount of healing as the others. So the conclusion of the video here is that if you're starting the game, if you don't have enough, for example, the outgoing healing companions, do not jeopardize the healings that you provide. Do not jeopardize your main job of the role to do the buffs and the debuffs. You are already ahead of the other healers just by playing Bard because of the Storyteller buff. You do provide 15% damage to the party. So do not put all the debuffs if you don't end up with the good stats to play the class, man. Don't do that to yourself. And I'm not saying that the Bard is bad or anything, but yeah, we don't need all the healing that the other class provides. So that's why in the end game players usually end up using the Bard, but there are some situations that you're gonna need more healing. Yeah, and that's unfortunately. But I did my best to explain to you all the powers, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed, and thanks for watching, and see you around, man.